गुड मॉर्निंग। आज हम बात करेंगे, जैसे कि हमने लिखा है, एनर्जी, माइंडसेट एंड डिप्रेशन। अब आई एम नॉट एनी एक्सपर्ट टू से अबाउट एनर्जी, माइंडसेट एंड डिप्रेशन ऑल दोस थिंग्स, लेकिन मुझे ये बराबर पता चलता है कि बिफोर 10-15 ईयर्स आई वॉज टोटली डिप्रेस। इतना डिप्रेशन आ गया था कि दिल ऐसे हुआ कि सुसाइड कर लेते हैं। उस हालत में देयर वॉज वन पर्सन इन द वर्ल्ड। सोशल मीडिया पर वो मुझे मिला। शी इज़ माई फ्रेंड। उसने मुझे गाइड किया। उसने मुझे सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से यूएसए में बैठे हुए उसने मेरा प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व किया। एंड देन आफ्टर आई अगेन स्टार्टेड लाइक लिविंग एंड ऑल दोज थिंग्स। ये मेरी दोस्त है। नेचुरली जब ऐसा कोई करेगा तो हमारा दोस्त हो ही जाता है। हर नेम इज कैरन रुडोल्फ। tranquilsolution.com नाम की वेबसाइट वो चलाती हैं। शी इज़ अ ग्रेट मोटिवेटर। यूएसए फ्लोरिडा में है। और जब ये पेंडेमिक के समय में ये सब गड़बड़ हुई और ऐसा हुआ कि लोग परेशान हो गए, किसी का जॉब चला गया, किसी का बिजनेस नहीं चल रहा, ऑल ऑफ देम आर टोटली डिप्रेस। तो उस डिप्रेशन में क्या करें? नाउ माई इंटेंशन इज माई स्टूडेंट्स। अब स्टूडेंट के लिए भी तो ये सिचुएशन हो गई ना। स्कूलें बंद होती है, कभी खुलती है, कभी बोर्ड ये दे देता है, कभी बोर्ड वो दे देता है। सो दैट इज अ टेरिफिक सिचुएशन। डिप्रेशन का माहौल है। बहुत से बच्चे मैंने ऐसे देखे कि एग्जाम के समय पर वो एग्जाम को अवॉइड करते हैं। वाई? बिकॉज नो प्रिपरेशन हैज बीन डन। दे आर टोटली डिप्रेस। कहाँ जाए, क्या करें? अब ऐसे माहौल में कैरन वॉज देयर। मैंने कैरन से बात किया कि आप कुछ हमारी हेल्प कर सकते हो। इट विल बी वेरी हेल्पफुल टू माई स्टूडेंट। करण एज शी इज़ वेरी जेन्यून पर्सन। करण ने बोला ठीक है। और दैट इज़ हाउ दिस वीडियो केम इन टू एग्जिस्टेंस। तो हम ज़्यादा टाइम वेस्ट नहीं करते, हम कैरन के पास जाते हैं और कैरन की बात सुनते हैं कि व्हाट शी इज़ ट्राइंग टू से। Our sincere thank before we start. Our sincere thank to my friend and a great motivator, Karen Rudolf, for coming to our channel and giving guidance to our students. So over to you, Karen.
Hello, I am Karen Rudolf, tranquilsolutions.com. I reside here in Florida in the US of A. And I was asked what the public might do to overcome depression during trying times. And for me, my first reaction is to let's define depression. And if we define it, it's the mental health disorder characterized by persistent depressed moods. There are 4 types of depression. There is existential depression, and it's due to a loss of a job or a loved one, and goals aren't meeting expectations or achieved. It's not feeling self-actualized. We find ourselves questioning everything, including where do I come from? Where am I going? There's a loss of identity or purpose, and there's a waste of time, low self-esteem. The psychological depression, on the other hand, there's a loss of perspective. There's lack of hopes and dreams, not responding well to stress, negative self-talk. There's a low self-esteem. There's unexpected expectations that often lead to codependency or dysfunctional relationships. Biological depression, on the other hand, is hormonal imbalances which cause a decrease in serotonin, hormones being all over the place, fatigue, despair, usually requiring meds to get out of these cycles. The situational depression is more in terms of what we're talking about. They're most likely seen during times of crisis, pandemic, isolation. You feel rejected, you're feeling lonely, you're feeling despair, you don't feel like getting out of bed. So what are the common symptoms? Restless sleep, your early awakening, ruminating on something over and over again, a sunken feeling of sadness and gloom, withdrawal, and inactivity or loss of interest, which create a significant impairment of your daily activities. Now that we have an awareness, it gives us a starting place, right? Awareness is, it decreases the power that whatever it is has over us, because we get to choose to change it or not. So once something is in our consciousness, you can't make it go away. It's there forever. So depending on how you ruminate on that consciousness, it will cause often a form of depression. And in order to shift that state of being, we must choose to change the way we're talking to ourselves. So biologically speaking, putting that aside, because remember, if you recall, I was talking about a lot of that being treated by the medical practice. If I look to Nikola Tesla's quote, when you want to know the secrets of the universe, you look in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. I love that personally. So if we look at it in terms of energy, everything being energy, in order for something to shift its energy, an action needs to be required. If you'll recall from physics, back when, for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction. The rate at which we vibrate your chosen frequency depends on your thoughts, feelings, images, words, and actions. So the brain receives this information, or those negative thoughts, which causes the vibration to lower the feeling energy. The low frequency, which is emitted outwardly, creates an environmental response. So you've been designing your life all along, whether you realize it or not. How are you reacting to the present situation? Well, take a moment to reflect. Hit the pause button, right? Take a deep breath in and ask yourself, are you reacting or are you responding to the present situations? It's never luck. We decide how things will look in our world. We get to say how life goes. It takes us shifting energy from an old world perspective of thought to a new world thinking, especially if nothing seems to be working presently. Not to discount anything about the present situation going on around you, but by any stretch, remember what you focus on expands. So we respond to a vibrational energy that we're holding on to, which brings me to frequency. Each thought you tell yourself over and over and over again, those related stories which play in your mind like a movie within your head. Many might even believe that the stories are values. They might be handed down from generations or relatives, ancestors, teachers, churches, temples, whatever it is. It's handed down. It's not always your own. So the repetition of a dominant thought expands and becomes fears. And that's what you're focusing on. So if it's a well-being or protective thought that you're going for, you must align with that frequency. As human beings, we're not wired for discontentment. We're designed for long-lasting frequencies. We aren't designed for long-lasting frequencies. So we have to create that energy. How do we do that? Often we'll do it with affirmations. A lot of affirmation work, so that when we're creating something, we actually believe it. So if I'm to tell myself, Karen, I am smart, right? My brain not always is going to believe that. There are going to be times it's going to test it and go, really? If I turn it around and say, I am taking actions every day in every way, which solidifies the actions of my intelligence and knowledge, then I'm raising a different vibrational frequency. My brain is more likely to wrap around that and believe that. So this vibrational energy is what we hold on to for the higher frequency thoughts. Thoughts create things and a new reality. In order to change the energy, our actions are required to align with that which we desire. Remember, what you focus on expands. And it's usually fears. So energy responds according to the intention and thought. The brain doesn't know the difference between imagined or reality. So what is fear defined? For instance, in this case, the pandemic, let's say, we look to what is so in the moment. It's a distressing emotion around us by impending danger and doom and evil, and either real or imagined. It's being afraid, the fear. If we think in terms of energy once more, fear is false energy appearing real. So what is that fear caused by? Right? So when we face the fears, we may use the energy to shift the situation and create a new actionable step. The discomfort that fear causes will dominate the brain until it's changed, right? The thought is changed. So consider using fear to motivate rather than defeat. Harness the power of that fear. And energy in motion, right, is going to create being in motion until it stops. So it takes the same amount of energy to create fear as it does the same amount of energy that it will take to focus on something else. So if we're not happy, right, look at the opposite of that form of truth, which can be liberating through acceptance. You are only powerless if you think you are. So when we change the way we look at things, the way we look at things change. So what if we change the perspective? Remember, I was saying it takes so much energy to be in fear. What if we looked at this and saying it's going to take just as much energy to be happy? But every thought and experience is a probability, not an absolute. So we are absolutely, never absolute. Anything, as energy is always in flux. So it truly is a choice. We can choose to be happy and joyful at any given time with a higher vibrational energy, and energy becomes the healing. Right? So if we are happy, it's because our conscious is determined to be so. Misery is a choice, as is happiness, which is relative and flexible to change. And I love the quote by Nathaniel Hawthorne, who says, one of our responsibilities is the greater to being responsible for our own happiness. So that brings me to, what might you do to overcome depression? Well, for starters, monitor your actions. Ask questions, self-reflective questions like, is this serving the highest good of all? What are my values? What am I living within my values? Am I holding that space for that personal integrity? Self-regulation. When I monitor those thoughts in terms of energy again, right? Negative thoughts, when they come up, I stop, change, and shift them. I stop the energy in the moment. I ask myself, is this serving me? What am I really getting to? Change the energy and shift into a new way of being. So the more you catch yourself in that space, it becomes a practice. The more you practice, the greater the new habit becomes. It's like going to the gym. The more you exercise, we're actually exercising our thoughts. Right? So remind yourself to love yourself. It's actually a very powerful prayer, which often we forget. So commit with grace, focused consciousness, intention or attention, which is energy again. What you focus on expands. Who are you going to listen to? Right? I often ask myself, go within. What's your internal GPS telling you? It's there to guide you, trust it, right? Listen to it, meditate on it, and clearly hear it. The peace starts within. There is no happiness outside ourselves. We create it from the inside out. So bondage is nothing more than the conditioning of the mind. Notice when you're in expectation. When you let go of the expectations, you find happiness through appreciation. In a moment the probability for happiness will increase exponentially. And when we look through the lens of appreciation, so when you reframe the expectation to appreciation, you create that currency of happiness and focus more on that. How do you focus on your studies and working change in the world? By creating new habits. If you recall everything being energy, we have little control over the existing circumstances quite often. So how you choose to respond to those circumstances will support you moving forward with less stress and ease. You must decide in advance how it will be for you. So when we live our life in the present moment, the here and the now, it's all we really ever have, and that's the gift, right? You get to choose to live life as if it's your last moment. Nothing truly lasts forever, and we have no control over the future unless we set focused intentions to a degree, and as life continues to happen around us. So remember, happiness is not a goal, it's a commitment to a daily practice. It's not always easy. Attempt to find humor in every moment. It's often quite challenging, especially when we're in our heads and life is happening fast and furious around us. But consider when we do find in the simplest of things, when we find beauty in the simplest of things or humor in the simplest of things, it's actually raising your serotonin levels. When that raises that hormone, it raises the spirits and the level around you of others, and like attracts like, right? So would you choose to be happy or sad? It's a choice, so make it count. It's been proven that every negative thought you think will require 3 positive thoughts to balance that negative energy and negate it totally. This is where I suggest a gratitude practice. How often do you stop and appreciate the things that really matter, no matter how big or small? If life is a gift, and it truly is, then what are you appreciating about it? Right? So when you get out of what's going on in the moment around you, get into your heart space. What are you here appreciating in this very moment? Again, no matter how big or small, practice mindset, right? It's not even a mindset, it's a way of being that we become in that space. The more you practice gratitude, the more you'll have to be grateful for. So as human beings, we're not meant to be alone. I get that. The pandemic has forced many of us to either be alone or confined with family or friends or in terrible situations. I get that, right? But even within the confines of that darkness and the dreariness, think outside the box and realize there is no box. Possibilities become endless. Be curious, right? What had you played with when you were a child and it kept you entertained by the hour and you discovered a feeling of lightness? Get back to those memories. When you were a child, you weren't necessarily running around in the streets. You were confined to a small place, creating your own happiness and finding that lightness out of curiosity. For little things, it could be a stone, right? It could be anything, a box, it could be anything, right? It's not always easy, but it takes the first step. Today, when I was driving, I saw ducks crossing the street, little ducks, a little family of ducks. And I saw a car slow down to let them pass. And it brought a smile to my face, and how grateful I was for those simplest of joys. And each time I closed my mind and I wanted to smile again, I would think about those ducks crossing the street and some kind soul allowing them to cross the street without harm. That brought a smile to my face over and over again. And if I were to forget, I could always Google a picture of ducks crossing the street and print it out and put it up on my wall. And it could bring me back to that beautiful moment in time. So find those beautiful moments around you with the simplest of things. Beauty is all over. Beauty comes from within. So to live means to experience through doing, thinking, and feeling. The outcomes will determine the quality of your thoughts, feelings, and images that you've chosen. Instead of going on and on the way you have been habitually reacting, you get to choose to change them or not. Right? You have an amazing power within you to change things about yourself, about your behaviors, your reactions, as well as your attitude and approach to your karmic conditions and relationships. Worry is about the things in our lives that we have no control over and won't ever serve us in this particular moment. It's actually a waste of a good imagination. Depression is often there to occurring because it's a lack of control in the moment of goals and purpose. Right? Goals are focused to motivate us and part of a creative process. The intention focused energy is a purpose and focus, right? So don't worry, be happy. When you're happy, you do not worry, or at least you worry less. We are only powerless if we think we are. By taking on an energy mindset, which is different than the way we've been programmed, we're actually generating a new wave around us of health and well-being. You're actually raising your immune system to create a positive outcome. So with that, I thank you very much. Karen at tranquilsolutions.com. Make it an amazing day, and I wish you all the best. Namaste.
So, as you have seen, कैरन जो कुछ भी हमको बताया, नो डाउट हर लैंग्वेज इज इंग्लिश. अब फ्लोरिडा के लोग तो हिंदी तो बोल नहीं सकते ना, और इतना ज़्यादा इंग्लिश का ट्रांसलेशन हिंदी में कैसे करेंगे. सो इट इज़ एडवाइजेबल कि आप उसको सुनो, व्हाट शी इज सेइंग, क्या वो बोल रही हैं, और उस पर अमल करो. अगर करते हो आप, तो इट माइट हेल्प यू टू कम आउट ऑफ डिप्रेशन. इट माइट हेल्प यू टू स्टार्ट स्टडिंग अगेन. इट माइट हेल्प यू टू स्टार्ट स्कोरिंग मार्क अगेन. आपके अंदर झांक कर देखो, उसने क्या बोला, देखो बायोलॉजिकल प्रोसेस बोले, बहुत सारे प्रोसेस बताए उसने, तो उसको देखो, उसको समझो और अमल करो. होप ये देखने से कुछ चेंज आ जाए तो हमारे लिए अच्छी बात हो सकती है. Our sincere thank to Karen. Our sincere thank कि you came to our channel and you gave your precious word to us. एक बात याद रखनी चाहिए, Karen is a great motivator and Karen is highly paid. ये बात बराबर याद रखना. Karen is highly paid person. So हमारी चैनल पर आकर उसने अगर वो 2 वर्ड दिए हैं, so those words are very precious. तो हमारी तरफ से our sincere thank to Karen for coming to our channel and guiding our students. Thank you very much from India. Karen, be our friend, be the friend of our students. Thank you very much for coming to our channel. और जो लोग आप देख रहे हो सकता है वो देखने से, वो उसकी बात सुनने से कोई चेंज अगर आ जाए तो मुझे बताना. ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच. थैंक यू एंड हैव ए नाइस डे.